Hello and welcome. My name's Richard Brown, that's right, the other Richard, and welcome to the continuation of the most exciting part of this class for today. That's right, we're going to carry on looking at the difference between to shout at someone and to shout to someone. With me in the studio today is David Penilla, star of stage and screen, as we say in English.
Okay.
How's it going?
It's going great, thank you.
You know that expression, star of stage and screen?
No, I didn't, but now I do.
Well, star of stage and screen obviously is an expression we use for when we're talking about well-known actors, as is your case, David.
Okay.
We say literally,
kind of, yes.
estrella de escenario y de pantalla.
Y de pantalla.
Literalmente. Okay, a nice little expression. Star of stage and screen. So with my star of stage and screen, we're going to carry on looking at the difference between shouting to someone and shouting at. In Spanish, as Richard will already have told you, you don't really differentiate between gritarle a alguien cabreado y gritarle a alguien para llamarle atención, ¿no? You simply say gritarle a alguien.
Yes.
In English, when you're angry, we shout at someone, okay? At, this preposition here, is implicit, the idea of anger within that preposition. I'm shouting at you because I'm angry. Okay, David?
Yeah.
Because you haven't done your homework, for example. I'm going to shout at all of you at home if you don't do your online exercises every day. I will shout at you, okay? Bien. ¿Está claro, no?
Yes.
Bien. Okay, let's go with some examples. I'll give you an example in Spanish and then we'll switch to lots of English questions.
Great.
Vi a mi padre en la calle y le grité porque no me oía. ¿Qué sería, con to o con at?
It would be with to.
Muy bien, good. Why? Because we're simply
Yes, to
calling
call
his attention. Okay?
Okay.
In Spanish, vi a mi padre en la calle y le grité porque no me oía. Ahora, en inglés.
I saw my father in the street and I shouted.
Shouted, bien,
I
okay.
shouted.
Very important. The verb to shout ends in a T, and therefore, as it's regular, the pronunciation of the past is shouted. Okay, we pronounce the E como si fuese una I latina. Okay, shouted, not shouted, shouted. Okay, bien, entonces.
I saw my father in the street and I shouted him.
I shouted
to him.
Where's the preposition, David? I will shout at you if you don't get it right.
Okay. I saw my father in the street and I shouted to him because he couldn't hear me.
Excellent. I saw my father in the street and I shouted to him. Empleamos la preposición to. Why? Because we're simply trying to get their attention. Okay? I shouted to him because he couldn't hear me. Good. Mi jefe me gritó porque llegué tarde.
My boss shouted at me.
Okay, shouted.
Shouted.
Mejor.
My boss shouted at me because I was late.
Excellent. Did you see the way David linked the past with the preposition there? It was excellent. He shouted at, shouted at, shouted at. This is something you must practice a lot to improve your fluency, okay? He shouted at me, I shouted at him, we shouted at them.
Okay.
Perfect, good. Okay, now there's another verb where we make a similar distinction between when we use it in conjunction with the preposition to and when we use it in conjunction with the preposition at. And that is the verb to throw. ¿Qué significa?
Tirar.
Exactly.
Arrojar.
Arrojar, tirar. Good, exactly. Now, when we're throwing something to someone, simply, in order to pass this object, for example, the pen, to David through the air, a través del aire, okay, we throw it to him. Okay, David, I'm throwing the pen to you. What am I doing?
You're throwing the pen to me.
Okay, catch. Here we go. Bien, now you can throw the pen back to me. What are you doing?
I'm throwing the pen back to you.
Good, excellent. He's throwing it back to me. He's throwing it to me, okay? Now, if I threw it to David, but with the intention of hurting him or causing him some bodily harm significa como daño corporal?
Yes.
¿Hemos dicho? ¿Sí?
Yes, sí.
Okay. Bodily harm, daños corporales, no sé. Bien. I want to hurt him, quiero hacerle daño, I throw the pen at him, okay? David, I'm going to throw the pen at you.
No, please.
Okay, duck, duck. ¿Qué significa duck? Es muy importante en esta clase.
Agáchate, ¿no?
Eso es, exactamente. Duck, que es nuestra palabra para pato, okay? We use it to mean duck, bird, but also it's a verb. To duck means agáchate, la cabeza, sobre todo. Okay, so I
Okay.
throw it at you and he ducks. No, it's broma.
Okay.
Okay,
You never know.
you never know with me. So I can throw the pen at you, duck. Okay, agacharos. Okay, duck. Bien, D-U-C-K, pero se dice duck, bajando la mandíbula. Good. So if I threw a pen at you, would you be angry?
Yes, I would.
If I threw a pen at you, David, would you shout at me?
Yes, I would probably shout at you.
Good. You wouldn't shout to me. You would shout at me if I
Yes.
threw a pen at you. Dime la frase entera.
If you threw a pen at me, I would shout at you.
Okay. If I threw a pen at you,
If you
you said it perfectly.
Okay.
Another example. If I threw a pen at you, David, okay, would you throw it back at me?
Yes, if you threw a pen at me, I would throw it back at you.
At you. Muy bien. If I threw a pen at David, he would
Yes.
throw it back at me. So I want to hurt him, he wants to hurt me. This is going to be la guerra de
Do
los
you say,
bolis. The war of the pens.
I by I?
¿Cómo?
No, okay. in the Bible, I by eye,
Bien.
tooth by tooth.
Sí, sí. An eye for an eye.
Okay.
An eye for an eye. Ojo por ojo, yeah.
Yes.
An eye for an eye.
Okay.
A tooth for a tooth. Tooth siendo el singular, ¿no? No decimos teeth. A tooth for a tooth. An eye for an eye. Good. So I throw the pen at David, and he throws it back at me. If I threw the pen at you at home, would you throw it back at me? Would you? You wouldn't dare. Bueno, sería difícil, ¿no?
Yes.
Pantalla, tengo ventaja. Excellent, good. Let's go to another verb, to laugh very quickly.
Okay.
If I laughed at you, would you be angry with me?
Yes.
Good. When we laugh at someone, again, with this preposition at, it's generally used within the context of these three verbs with a connotation of hurting or harming someone, either physically or morally. Okay, so if I were to laugh at David, me estoy riendo de ti.
Sí, te estás riendo de mí.
Exactly. I'm not laughing with him, I'm laughing at him. So if I laughed at you, David, would you get angry?
Yes. If you laughed at me, I would be angry.
Okay, if I laughed at you, would you shout at me?
No, come on, it's too much. No,
Well, poco.
if you laughed at me...
Well, for the class, for the sake of the class.
Okay.
Bien.
If you laughed at me, I would shout at you.
Okay, if I laughed at him, he would shout at me.
Yes.
Ask me if you shouted at me, if I would throw a pen at you.
If I shouted at you, would you throw a pen at me?
Of course I would. Okay, see you later, guys. Ciao.